I will call the member for Bradfield.
Mr Deputy Speaker, this bill and this debate tonight is not about whether the Rudd-Gillard government had good intentions. All too often we hear this defence from them, oh, we had good intentions, we wanted to do good things. But that is not what this bill is about, Mr Deputy Speaker. This bill is about what happened when they set out to implement a program to give effect to their intentions. And what have we seen in what has occurred with the implementation of that program? To use a quote from the current Prime Minister, it is a mess. We have seen more than enough signs, Mr Deputy Speaker, that there is something seriously wrong with this program in terms of mismanagement, in terms of waste, in terms of poor handling of public money. We have seen more than enough signs of trouble, such that it is now appropriate that we take the extraordinary and the unusual step of establishing a Royal Commission to get to the bottom of this. Mr Speaker, I want to put to you, Mr Deputy Speaker, I want to put to you three propositions. First of all, there is more than enough evidence that there is a very serious problem. Secondly, Labor has sought to sweep that problem under the carpet. And thirdly, the Australian people have a right to know what has been done with their $14.2 billion. Mr Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I keep promoting you. Mr Deputy Speaker, let me start first with the evidence of the problems. We've heard it from the member for Sturt, we've heard it time after time, and I want to speak briefly about a couple of problems in my own electorate. At Pymble Public School, for example, let me quote the words of the President of the P&C. What we're concerned about is that the 5 classrooms that are over here are costing about $3,600 a square metre. Over here, we had a building burnt down by arson last year, being constructed with the same materials. That's costing $1,700 a square metre. One is a BER building at $3,600. One is not. It's business as usual, $1,700. Or Gordon East Public School, a school where the new building being constructed is costing $4,870 a square metre. In my introduction to this place, when I asked the then Deputy Prime Minister and Minister responsible about that school, I was, for my troubles, described as an idiot. Although I do note, Mr Deputy Speaker, and there may be other good reasons to describe me as an idiot, I will cheerfully note, I do note, Mr Deputy Speaker, that the P&C of that school subsequently asked the Orgel Inquiry to come and have a look. So apparently things weren't quite as rosy as the then Deputy Prime Minister tried to assert. We have seen the evidence of the underlying problem, which is the appallingly poor process by which this money has been dispersed. The New South Wales government was handed a staggering amount of money, over $3 billion, by the federal government, on any view a grave error of judgment, Mr Deputy Speaker, to hand several $1 billion to the New South Wales government and ask them to manage it with anything approaching competence. And I went to a presentation by the senior New South Wales bureaucrat, Mr Angus Dawson, who told those assembled we were told to spend $3.5 billion in New South Wales within 2 years or hand it back. So is it any surprise, Mr Deputy Speaker, that there was very little concern given to the normal commercial disciplines in terms of saving money, in terms of spending money efficiently, or indeed to something else that parents and taxpayers might reasonably expect, which is that schools would be given the opportunity to genuinely choose what they wanted. And as we've heard, there have been all too many unfortunate examples of schools being left with something which was very much their second choice. So the first proposition, Mr Deputy Speaker, is that there is ample evidence that there is a serious problem. The second proposition is that this Labor government has attempted to sweep it under the carpet. The Shadow Minister and member for Sturt has been assiduously raising this issue. All of us on our side have been assiduously raising this issue, but we get these attempts at diversionary tactics. For example, when the then Deputy Prime Minister spoke on a motion on this issue on the 2nd of June. She said, if you are going to effectively manage a program, you have to support it and you have to believe in it. Implication, unless you voted for it, you are not entitled to ask questions about how the money is being administered. Well, Mr Deputy Speaker, on our side of the House, we absolutely reject that. In fact, when I wrote a letter to the Deputy Prime Minister asking her about the basis on which a decision had been taken that a school in my electorate was not eligible to receive funding under the rules of a program she had established, she wrote back and said, I should note my surprise that you are pursuing additional funding under the BER. As a constant critic of the program and as part of an opposition who voted against it, your hypocrisy in pursuing extra funding is extraordinary. Mr Deputy Speaker, there is absolutely nothing inappropriate with a member of the House seeking to understand whether the rules of a program dealing with the disbursement of public funding have been properly applied, and those who asked that question were simply subjected to personal abuse. That is an extraordinary way to deal with billions of dollars of public money. But the second justification we've had, Mr Deputy Speaker, is it's all about jobs, so you can forget everything else. Don't worry about the basis upon which the money is being disbursed. Indeed, the Deputy Prime Minister said that as well on the 2nd of June. She said, in order to effectively manage a program, you have to understand what the outcomes being sought for the program are. A key outcome of the Building the Education Revolution is supporting jobs. Mr Deputy Speaker, I return to the point I made at the outset. This is not a bill which goes to the question of whether Labor approached this policy with good intentions. It goes to the question of how they administered this program, how they dealt with over $14 billion of public money. And it is very much evident that there are serious problems on foot. We have heard about the various reports which have already been conducted, or inquiries which have been conducted into this program, and that brings me to my third proposition, Mr Deputy Speaker. The people of Australia are entitled to the facts. If even the Deputy Prime Minister's hand-picked inquirer is unable to avoid the conclusion that, for example, there is substance to complaints that have been put to him, and if the Auditor-General indicates material raises issues in his report, then there is more than enough to indicate to us, Mr Deputy Speaker, that there are reasons here to be very concerned. And one of the reasons why we need a judicial inquiry is because the Orgel inquiry, even if you were minded to approach it in the most charitable way possible, the Orgel inquiry on any view does not have the power to get to the bottom of things. It does not have the power to summon witnesses. It does not have the power to issue search warrants. And these are powers which a judicial inquiry would have, and we have seen that there are sufficiently serious problems that we do need a body with such powers, particularly because of the climate of fear which, for example, the member for Mitchell raised when he spoke before me. Mr Deputy Speaker, there is a raft of questions that the people of Australia are entitled to know about in the way that over $14 billion of their money was spent. Why were the most basic principles of procurement ignored in the administration of this program? Basic principles like getting 3 competitive quotes before you go out and spend money. Why, in so many cases, were schools given very little real choice about what it was that would be built at their school? Why was it made so difficult for schools to manage the projects themselves? In New South Wales, principals were told that they could manage the projects themselves, but they'd have to assume personal legal liability. Well, unsurprisingly, Mr Deputy Speaker, very few of them chose to do that. And I do want to congratulate the courage and the vision and the hard work, or note the courage and the vision and the hard work of so many school principals, school P&Cs who have worked so hard with in many cases working very hard to try and get good outcomes for their schools. It's very unfortunate that this program has made it difficult for schools to get the outcomes they ought to have got, but fundamentally what is of enormous concern is that we have serious signs of trouble, serious signs of mismanagement. We need a judicial inquiry to get to the bottom of it.